What up, ladies? Leon Trotsky here, bringing you some more Dirt 3 gameplay. And today I got a full jam session for you. Over 5 races, rally cars, hardcore, playing Group B series, random races, got Finland, all sorts of stuff. You will be able to see all my car setups, everything I'm doing to set up my car special, and I'll try and give you as much tips and strategies as I can, as well as a little insight into the settings that we're racing on today. This is a pretty full lobby we got here. 8 cars in here. I believe somebody does back out towards it, but we'll get through that. You see us all talking shit, wishing us good luck, having a good time and stuff in the lobby. We're talking pretty much the entire game, which is a lot of fun. Everybody in this lobby, this is a jam session, so with the jam sessions, if you don't know, you can pretty much specialize it. One person's a leader and they set up all the settings, they set all the maps, they set all the nighttime weather, everything like that. So today, everybody in this game is playing with the Force head cam and Force manual gears. So it's handicapping everybody, but it makes it very intense racing. And if you don't know how the jam session works and what these rally races works, is basically you have 5 races and your overall time for all of those 5 races added up equals your final score, and whatever your final score at the end is whoever comes in first. So every little mistake, every corner is important. You can't make any mistakes. It's all about being consistent and being fast and consistent. And these guys that I'm playing with right now are freaking bosses. Like, I'm getting better at this game, and I can beat these guys sometimes, and sometimes you'll see me do really good, because I know some of these tracks. I'm starting to get these tracks down, but man, if they don't make a mistake, it can be very difficult to beat some of these guys. And in this game, I do come in 2nd place in the overall standings, which is freaking pretty good, because there's one guy that comes in first pretty much every time we play together. And these are some buddies that I've started to make on Dirt 3, and these guys are just damn good. And you see me start pinning corners, and I love driving manual. I first started driving automatic, and manual is just, it's so much more fun. I could beat somebody driving automatic, don't get me wrong. If they're not as good, or if they make mistakes, I'm going to beat them driving manual if I don't make mistakes. But the reason I like driving manual a lot more is I feel like I have a lot more control. When I start losing control, which is very, very possible and very likely to happen in this game, I feel like I gain control a lot faster when I use the manual setup. And the advantage that has is when you play online and multiplayer is you can't make mistakes. You have to go through these races as fast as possible. If you make one mistake, pretty much every little spin out, every little mistake is about 5 seconds on your overall time, because you got to figure there's going to be one person in this game that is going to do it almost perfectly. So it's just kind of how it goes. You see here, we finished up that race, I got 127. The cool thing is we do staggered starts, so some of these other guys, they started after me, and they're going to start up putting up better times than I am, because they've also been watching the split times the whole race and seeing who's been doing better. So it's pretty cool how they set this up. We can crash into each other if we need to, but everybody runs the same course. They just start everybody about 10 to 15 seconds separate, and then you can sit there and spectate everybody at the end. So in that race, I came in 3rd place. Basically, the 2 guys above me are pretty freaking good, and then there's another guy in here, the IG43 or whatever his name is really good too, but he ends up dropping out or something towards the end, so he probably allows me to get 2nd place. But like I said, we're using the Group B class, and it's an interesting class to run in because these cars are freaking fast as hell. They're very 80, they're like the 80s super rally cars, and I'm running the Audi, which has a ton of power under the hood, over 500 horsepower I believe it is. And so it's interesting with these setups. It is very important to be able to set up your car with the online multiplayer as the same as you do in single player, because having a shorter gear ratio is very important in these games, because if you have a longer gear ratio, sometimes you will not even use the longer gears. Even sometimes with where I have it set now, the one above the gear ratio, it's sometimes I don't get into 6th gear, and it can be very difficult, but it's just one of those things you start learning and you start getting down, and that's why the jam sessions are really cool, so you can have all the setup settings which everybody agrees on. Everybody that is racing in this likes to race this style. They all enjoy it, so it makes it that much more competitive. And you'll see when players are really good and when they're not, and when they make mistakes. You'll know, like, when somebody made a mistake or something, and we all joke about it in the lobby, but it's all good times. So here we got the 2nd race of the series, and we're playing on Kenya. And Kenya's mostly dirt to tarmac tracks, and the tarmac's not too stable, a lot of uneven surfaces here, and this makes for a good race. I know most of these courses are already, and different people do different stuff when they set up their games. Personally, when I set up games, I like to do all the races from a single nation, like all the races from Norway, or all the races from Michigan or something like that. And then some people like to mix it up and do a Kenya and then a snow map and then a Finland and stuff like that. But the cool thing is that a lot of the maps have the similar turns, so it can get very similar, and you can start learning as the maps go along. Some of the maps are played backwards, and then you're playing forwards at night or when it's snowing or raining. It gets really interesting. And I think I put up a pretty good time, and like I said, it's just very important. It's just putting up an overall standard good time. And so the players that play in this sort of mode and play online in this sort of sessions, I think are some of the better drivers out there, because these guys are so fast consistently. Like, obviously, like, time trials is a lot of fun, and it's fun to learn how to drive a track really fast, but some of these people that put up world records, and I mean, I have a few in the top 10 still, and they are just so ridiculously fast, but it takes a lot of time, and it just takes restarting. So you see people when they first jump onto this, and sometimes we'll get some noobs jump into the lobby random, and we'll joke around with them, and some of them will stay, and it's really challenging. Don't get me wrong, this game mode, playing online in the cockpit only, with only manual keys, it is a lot of challenge, but the challenge is what makes it so much fun. And when you start seeing you're catching on people, like I'm catching on these guys here, you see me, I'm watching the split times a little bit, and I'm like 1 second ahead. And, you know, I see them catching up on the left-hand side, and you just like, I don't want to mess up, because I'm putting in a good time on the overall leaderboard, and hopefully that they mess up. And I know these tracks, you know, get the second gear to get those hairpins in, and where I can cut here, you know, I can cut a little on the third, and I might get into fourth if I need to, but I can drop it back on to second to keep control. And there's so much little things here where you just gotta pay out. I could shoutcast with a couple of these races. I mean, I love pinning these corners. It's so intense sometimes. I can give you, you know, there's so many different little tricks I can give on this game, you guys. If you guys want to know my setups and stuff like that, if you want to know tips for a certain track, I do mostly rally racing. I can do some of the Trailblazers and stuff like that, and I can do most of the other stuff. I think rally racing is probably my favorite. And recently, I've started to venture out a little bit. This is a great turn here. Drop it into second when you need to. And that's the cool thing about running the manual gears is rather than braking, you know, when you need to, and you might lose control, especially because now I've turned off anti-lock brakes. We're all running with no assists. If I didn't get that clear, there are no assists in this lobby. Nobody has any assists whatsoever. But with the manual gears, it's really easy to downshift into gears rather than using your brakes to slow down. And right there, I put up a pretty freaking good time, and I hope it's going to hold up. One of these guys is still racing. The JD Meg guy's real good. And the Rolo Jack guy's he was kind of newer to the lobby, but he was still putting up good times. So I'm still a little nervous, which makes it all the fun when you race these split times and staggered starts. It makes it really interesting watching people's times come up at the end and seeing who finished where. And I actually beat that guy in that race, and I was all probably pumped up about that because I really hardly ever beat that guy. But you know, when you're on, and sometimes, you know, it's just really hitting the corners right. And you see, if you make a mistake sometimes, he probably made 1 or 2 mistakes in that race, and it cost him the race. And I think he still beat me. He was the one who beat me in the overall leaderboards, which if I beat him in an overall leaderboards, you guys, I guarantee you'll see that one, because that'll be the day when I will just pin everything. It's just every corner will be on point. But we're still waiting around. You see, I believe it shows, you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of time in these lobbies, and it'll show basically your track time, and then it'll show your next your overall time there. So you see I'm third in the overall times. I'm 1 second behind second place, and about 10 seconds in front of third place. So it's going to be a close race, and that was only race 2 or 3. I don't even know. I mean, I think that was only race 2, so we got 3 more races to go, guys. It's just getting started here, and that's what's so much fun is, you know, you can't make a mistake for 5 races. It's intense, and you got to go fast, because as you can see, these guys are no joke. Like, you got to put down decent times. Like, obviously you don't have to put down world record times, but you got to be consistently putting down good times. And up here we got race 3 in Norway, some crazy track name I can't pronounce. And Norway's an interesting track where you got to make sure you see my set up my ride height a little bit, one lower. Personally, the snow, I have a hard time with the snow sometimes. Sometimes it just does not work with me, and I think there's a spot in this race where I might have spin out, and I just totally like, fuck. And that's one of those things, you see people start cussing in the screen sometimes in the middle of the race. Usually, you see everybody talking right now in the right side, and everybody's, you know, doing good. No, this is the race where that guy just totally backed out, but everybody's talking, but during the race, nobody talks, because in the rally racing, you know, they give you the directions and everything, and so you're listening to your co-driver pretty well, and especially now that I've started driving without my HUD on, so the HUD, you know, the heads-up display is obviously every little thing besides the car, so all the speaking, all the track map, the speedometer on the far right, everything on the left is all gone. and it is intense. So you see, oh, first little spin out there, a little trick about going from reverse and back into first in manual is very tough. And okay, while we watch this race and you watch me struggle in the snow, even though I do know this course, I'm going to talk about my big tip, the big tip I can give anybody trying to switch over to manual gears, especially obviously on the Xbox 360, is change your settings, change your controls. And the biggest control change I have is obviously have the shifting on the right thumbstick. I have shift up and shift down on the right thumbstick. I have all my looking around on the D-pad. I've also made it so that I have my e-brake as right bumper, just so I don't have to take off my thumbs for any shifting to hit the e-brake, as well as I have my horn on my left bumper so that I can crazy horn like crazy when I need to in the very beginning and just have some fun with it. But those are probably the biggest changes I would probably make. And once I did that, I was able to play manual, because when I first tried to play manual with the button setup, it was like, this is going to be freaking impossible. There's no way I'm going to be able to set up to do this. But I switched it over to have the thumbstick, and you really got to make sure that you switch over all your looking around, because originally the right thumbstick set to like look at certain directions while you're inside the cockpit, which honestly I never use. So I set it so that I can now, it's not going to look around, because at first you're going to like shift up and down, but you'll shift a little bit and your head will shift to the left as you shift down or something like that, which is a pain in the ass. And the other big tip I can give is, originally I changed my change camera, which I hardly ever change camera anymore, but when I need to, I put it to the back button, because at first, when I first switched, I was playing mostly single player, and I was having a very hard time I was hitting like the e-brake or something stupid that I thought was the e-brake, and it was actually switch camera, and so I kept switching camera and just screwing up like crazy, and it was very, very difficult. So that is another big tip of mine. But let's see, we're kind of trying to mash through the snow course. The biggest thing, guys, once again, is just trying to stay in control, anticipating corners, being able to downshift into corners, get down to second gear when you need to, and just, that's the big thing with manual. You just have so much more controls. When you start losing that grip, start sliding a little bit, downshift real quick, rather than having to hit the brakes and just waiting for the gear to be able to kick in. You control the gears, because makes a lot more sense, especially when you start listening to the advanced controls. And this little corner here can be very tricky. There's a little hairpin at the end, and I actually do a pretty good job of it. Slow down to second gear, get out of it pretty quick, and pretty easy. And you see me watch one of the other guys, that JD Meg guy here. Like, that was a pretty decent run. You saw me spin out in the beginning, alright? I was first there, 3:07, pretty decent time. Now I'm going to watch our buddy here, who, he's talking the whole time. This guy talks so much smack, but he's a damn good racer. And he's talking about you see his name come up. He's like, okay, now we got the hairpin at the end that I'm totally going to screw up. Oh, and he tries to take the hairpin like a mile early. Has to totally reverse it, put it back in first, get out of there, and he still beats my time. And I'm just like, god damn, like, you look back and it's like, I had a huge spin out when I had to put him in reverse in the beginning, but I guess mine was worse than his, so he beat me by like a lot of time, like 9 seconds or something ridiculous. And then we got everybody else here. This is the race when that i4G 4G63 guy, he dropped out, and it just kind of made it so that, I don't know what happened. He basically, he's a good racer, but because he dropped out of the race, it probably allowed me to get second place. And it's fun when you have a lot of competition in here. Don't get me wrong, like, I easily could have got second place on him, but look at this guy, example. He's a good racer too. He's from whatever that country is over the ocean, the UK, Britain, England, all those good places, and he totally fucked up at the end too. At the last corner, he was talking about it too, even though he was putting down a decent time. And he's a good racer too. I'm surprised I beat him, and that race right there gave me a big time up on him. As you can see, like, I beat him by 12 seconds or something, and I was only a second in front of him. So the overall time session is what it's all about. It's all about the overall time results and how long and how fast you do each track added together. And so adding that all together makes it really interesting. And so if you don't finish a race, oh my god, if you do not finish or you crash out or something, your time is shot. So it's very important that you do not crash, because otherwise you can give up the entire race. I mean, it's fun still coming in first afterwards, but unless you destroy every single person in that lobby by, 15 to 20 seconds in the rest of the races, there's no way you're going to win, and there's probably no way you're even going to come in third, so you can really give it up there. But you see, we got another race coming up. Let's see, what is this? This looks like Finland, possibly? Some good old Finland. I love, oh no, Michigan, my bad. Michigan and Finland are probably my two favorite places. I'm going to set my rally up here, and I'm running some low downforce, and I'll raise my ride height a little bit, and I've actually stiffened my, oh, excuse me. I have, what is it, the stiffer, I don't know, differential or whatever, a stronger differential, so it prevents me from sliding quite as much, which is nice with some of these Group B cars because they're very fast. It can be very important to kind of hold your line in a corner rather than kind of slide around a corner. Sometimes, like with the car like an STI, I'll allow it to slide a little more, like a 90s STI, which I like to drive a lot. I'll let it slide a little bit more, but it's the cars like this where I feel like they have a lot of power. It's really important about keeping them on a strict line, so sometimes a stronger differential will, you know, reduce them from just sliding around. This is my understanding. You know, I could be completely wrong about this stuff, but I just kind of mess around with it a little bit and do what works for me. Those are my rules about settings, but, you know, wish me luck here. I do a little funny little thing in the beginning. You'll see there where I like flip it into reverse to try and mess up with people, and I see some people sometimes actually have seen somebody flip it into reverse and crash into the person in the very beginning. But I just put it in reverse to, you know, show people, especially when I'm running single player, or when I'm running games where there are people that aren't running with manual, and I am running with manual. I like to flip it into reverse because they can't do that, I'm pretty sure, with manual. And so that can be really fun. I love this. These turns here over this little bridge is probably some interesting turns right here. They're a lot of fun on the Michigan courses, and they can be very interesting going both directions. So definitely something to keep in note there. That the little hairpin before you got to go into second, even though you can cut through, they're a little by the tire. But oh man, both those turns are very hairy. But what's so much fun about this is that you get to play the turns multiple times in different tracks, so you get to practice them going different ways and stuff like that. So it's very interesting, you know, getting to play certain turns a lot of times. That's why I like playing, you know, the same tracks a bunch of times. But here on this track, I know I'm doing pretty good times, but I know this track is a little bit longer, and I know I put up a pretty decent time in the last course, and I'm a pretty good amount of time in front of Example, but I see he's putting up a pretty good time so far, so I got to make sure that I put up a somewhat similar time, and I'm just watching the overall scoreboard there, and I see I come up about 3 seconds behind him, and I believe I came up 10 seconds in front of him last time, so I know he's coming back on me, so it's going to be close. And, you know, this is the 4th race, so you start thinking about the overall leaderboards, overall statistics, and oh man, just right into the freaking tree. Sometimes it's really tough when you start driving manual to be able to react from emergencies like that. When you totally go off the road, it can be really difficult to switch back to first gear or back to reverse, and that I lose quite a few seconds. Example put up quite a great time on that. I start watching some of these other guys, and you see them just pinning turns, and I don't know how, like, he hit the post there, and that's obviously going to slow him down through the rest of the race here, but man, just being able to react real quick on the stick, you know, that's one thing that the stick has over the buttons when you're shifting, is being able to just flip it, you know, get down to second or first. It's tough, you know, when you don't have the HUD on, especially, to be able to see what gear you're in, but it can be very important, you know, being able to get in, knowing first from reverse and stuff like that when you crash into a wall. So we'll see here, put up a decent time there, but I was quite far behind Example. We'll see what the overall time is going into the last race. It takes forever sometimes. We're still talking smack. That JD guy's just talking like crazy. Gotta love Horizon Drive. It's a fun one. It's a different test from the different Michigan ones. That's why I like running them all the same country. So we're just waiting here for, we're kind of just talking around, joking around about the times, and we see 8:46, 8:49, and then Jade, I guess I'm somewhat close. I'm about 9 seconds behind him, and then the other guy's a few seconds behind me. So first, second, third is going to be pretty close towards the end here going into this last race. I got to make sure to go pretty fast because I know that both those two first guys, unless they screw up, like Example is really fast and the other guy's really fast too. Like my racing style in general, like I'm generally not quite as fast as some of these guys, but I try to be as consistent as I can. Some of these races, some of these courses, don't get me wrong, I know them and I'm quick and I know what I'm doing, but this last race, we got the rain on, it's going to be fun. I'm not sure, I probably should have shortened my gear ratio one more. I always say that, but I don't do it, and I always think about it too, but you know, sometimes you just got to go for it. So we'll give it a second here, and I'm just going to, you know, talk a bunch of smack. We wish each other luck and all that good stuff, and probably honking our horns like crazy. And the fun thing is you get all these different horns, and we make the joke that sounds like a crazy dubstep song sometimes when you blare in the horns. Like I got the the ship horn or something like that, and it is so freaking loud compared to everybody else. And when you're coming up on somebody, you start blaring that horn behind them when you're actually racing it, it gets you nervous. And if it's at night, you actually have the bright lights on, and the bright lights shine in the cabin from behind you. Oh my god, and they're honking the horn, and the lights are on you. It'll throw you off, it'll put you in the wall in a freaking second. So, just something to take a note of, but the different horns are a lot of fun. I think that's something cool, and I hope they come out with some more DLC, some sort of maps, some sort of things where you can race all the cars on every map, and maybe some other horns and stuff like that. Other liveries would be pretty cool too, but I'm still enjoying this game like crazy. I'll let you guys watch this last race. I believe is somewhat quick. You know what, I'm not sure. You know, some of these races, some of the courses, some of the tracks for rallies are, you know, 1 minute, some of them are 3 minutes, so sometimes it can be kind of tough. And that's another thing that's difficult about the HUD, is that if you don't have the HUD on and you're like, oh man, like how long is this race? How much further do I have to go? Am I almost to the end? It can be very difficult. But this course, I love these Finland's courses. I love when the rain's on. Course is all wet, rain's flying in the windshield. It just gets so intense as you're just flying through these turns. You gotta get a little downshift into fourth, slow it down a little bit. You know, just watching those shifts, I know I got a downshift into third there, get around the corner. And the big thing is just, you know, in the automatic, it's going to shift automatically for you, but you can really pin out those gears. You can really, you know, hold a gear when you need to. Here, I should have had a shortened gear ratio, so I should have been able to get into 6th gear a lot quicker. And it also makes you, the shortened gear ratio allows you to get out of corners a lot faster, so it's something really big to get into. But you see some of these other guys are freaking flying on this course already, and, you know, up 4 seconds or something like that. So oh man, I gotta try and haul ass. And that's the one tough thing sometimes about having the splits on, is it's distracting, because sometimes, you know, it's the same thing with making a mistake. You make a mistake, you feel like you got to make up for it. You feel like you got to go faster, and that's how you're going to make another mistake, is not being in control and not knowing, and just not anticipating and not knowing your little, you know, tips on what turns you can go faster. And that's the biggest thing, you know, is just knowing where you can take gears faster, where you can take turns faster, and also car setups, you know, will give you a huge advantage. So this is one of those shorter tracks, and I put up a decent time. Probably don't come too great. I'll put up in 3rd place. So it's going to be close for the overall standings. Like I said, I think it come down to, oh man, then that JD Meg still came in first, some random, or came in second, Twisted Dragon came in first, but I was not fast enough. I think I still held on to 2nd place, so I hope you guys enjoyed this long one, guys. This is what I've been playing like crazy on dirt. It is a lot of fun. It's intense. It is very intense when everybody's playing with the same settings, hardcore. I hope there's a setting eventually where everybody has to race with the HUD off. I think that'd be really cool, where nobody has any HUD. It's just the cars. It's just in the car. It's just your manual gear shifting, and it'll be a freaking blast. So overall standings, 1018 1.144 to 1018.786, like less than a second. Less than a second between 2nd and 3rd place. Like, obviously I didn't get first, like, I'm sorry, but that is fucking crazy. I'm sorry. For all those racing 5 races and be less than a second between 2nd and 3rd place is pretty intense. So that's what makes it all the fun, guys. I hope you're enjoying this. I hope you made it through the end. Let me know what you think. I'll give some more. Let me know what you want to see. If you guys need some more tips, some strategy, stuff like that, let me know in the comments below. Keeping it real, ladies. I got some more Branks, some more Battlefield on the way for sure. Leon Trotsky, you know how we do.